His hands froze mid-dig as the shovel struck something metallic. Mike Reynolds paused, wiping sweat from his brow despite the cool autumn air. 20 years of working this land, and he'd never hit anything but rocks and roots. The weather beaten, Farmer hesitated before brushing away the soil, revealing the corner of a rusted metal box that had no business being buried in his north field. "What the hell?" he muttered, dropping to his knees. The irrigation trench could wait. Mike dug with renewed purpose, unearthing a heavy metal container sealed with 2 industrial padlocks, both corroded but intact. Something about it sent a chill through him that had nothing to do with the October wind. Whatever was inside, someone had gone to great lengths to keep it hidden, and on his family's land. He didn't know it yet, but everything was about to change. Mike loaded the box into his pickup truck, mind racing. His first instinct was to call Sheriff David Taylor. They'd played high school football together, still went fishing most summers. If anyone would give him straight answers, it would be David. The sheriff's office sat at the edge of Oak Ridge counties. Modest downtown, a brick building that hadn't changed much since Mike was a kid. Inside, the receptionist gave him a warm smile. "He's just finishing a call, Mike. Take a seat." 10 minutes later, Sheriff Taylor emerged, his broad shoulders filling the door frame. His expression shifted subtly when he spotted the box beside Mike's chair. "Found something interesting?" David's tone was casual, but Mike didn't miss how his eyes lingered on the locked container. "Dug it up in the north field. Figured I should bring it in before prying it open." The sheriff nodded too slowly. "Smart move. Could be nothing. Could be, well, let's get it into evidence." "Evidence of what?" Mike asked. "I haven't even opened it yet." "Protocol, Mike. Could be stolen property. Could be dangerous materials." David's smile didn't reach his eyes. "We'll check it out. Let you know what we find." "How long will that take?" "Hard to say. Week or 2. We're short-staffed." Mike frowned. 2 weeks to open a box? I'll do my best to expedite it." The sheriff took the box, hefting it with apparent surprise at its weight. "Where exactly did you find this?" After describing the location, Mike headed to Mabel's diner for lunch. The bell chimed as he entered, and the usual hum of conversation faltered. Elderly farmers occupying the counter turned, nodded, and resumed their coffee with noticeable restraint. Sliding into his usual booth, Mike ordered the meatloaf special from Mabel herself. "Heard you found something on your property," she said, pouring his coffee without asking. News traveled fast in Oak Ridge County. "Just an old box. Probably nothing." Mabel lowered her voice. "That north section, wasn't it?" When Mike nodded, she pressed her lips together. "That land was Harold Benson's before your daddy bought it. I remember Mr. Benson. Sold the place. Pretty suddenly, as I recall. Sudden's one word for it." Mabel glanced around before continuing. "Week after that Sullivan girl went missing. Packed up, sold to your father below market, moved clear to Arizona. From the counter, Walter Green, who had to be pushing 90, cleared his throat loudly. Mabel straightened up immediately. "Anyway, your meatloaf will be right up," she said, suddenly all business. Mike watched her retreat to the kitchen, then caught Walter's roomy eyes watching him. The old man shook his head slightly before turning back to his coffee. Driving home, Mike couldn't shake the feeling that the box wasn't just something. It was something everyone but him seemed to know about, and no one wanted him digging, figuratively or literally. 3 days passed with no word from Sheriff Taylor. Mike left 2 messages at the station and received only vague assurances that they were processing the item. His patience wore thin. The familiar rumble of his son's motorcycle announced Tyler's weekend arrival from the State University 2 hours away. At 20, Tyler had his mother's analytical mind and none of Mike's willingness to let things lie. "So they just took it?" Tyler asked, helping himself to leftovers. "Without even opening it first?" Said it was protocol. Mike sipped his beer, watching his son's skeptical expression. "I'm starting to think I should have opened it myself. You know where it was found. We could look for more." Mike considered this. "David seemed very interested in exactly where I dug it up. Even more reason to check it out ourselves." After dinner, they drove to the north field, parking near the irrigation project. The evening air carried a hint of the coming frost as they approached the spot where Mike had made his discovery. "Here," Mike pointed to the half-finished trench. About 3 feet down, Tyler crouched, examining the soil. If someone buried one thing here, they worked until darkness fell, finding nothing but confirming Mike's growing suspicion. The sheriff had no intention of telling him what was in that box. The next morning, after Tyler went for a run, Mike made a decision. He called the station. One last time. Any progress on that box, David? These things take time, Mike. Could be another week. That's not going to work for me. I need that box back today, opened or not. A long pause. I can't do that. Then I'm coming to get it. It's my property, found on my land. Don't make this difficult, the sheriff warned, voice hardening. Let us handle it. Today, David, by noon. Mike hung up, hands trembling slightly. Something was very wrong. Tyler returned from his run to find his father gathering tools in the barn. Dad? What's up? We're getting that box back. Today. At the sheriff's office, the receptionist informed them that Sheriff Taylor had been called away on urgent business. The box was nowhere to be found in the evidence room, according to the deputy who reluctantly checked. This is bullshit, Tyler muttered as they drove home. Mike's jaw clenched. One more stop. They parked outside the modest house where David Taylor lived alone since his divorce. The sheriff's cruiser sat in the driveway. Wait here, Mike told his son, but Tyler was already getting out of the truck. No one answered their knocks. Mike walked around back, finding a window with the blinds not fully closed. Inside, he could see the metal box sitting on Taylor's dining room table, still locked. He took it home, Mike said incredulously. That's not procedure. Break the window, Tyler suggested. And get arrested? No. Mike returned to his truck, grabbing a notepad. He scrawled a message and tucked it under the cruiser's windshield wiper. I know you took it home. You have until tonight. Back at the farm, Mike paced the kitchen while Tyler researched lock-breaking techniques online. At dusk, headlights swept. Across the farmhouse, Sheriff Taylor stepped out, carrying the box. You're making a mistake, Mike, he said, placing it on the porch. Some things are better left buried. That's not your call to make. Don't say I didn't warn you. Taylor returned to his cruiser without another word. In the kitchen, father and son examined the rusted padlocks. Why is he so spooked? Tyler wondered. Mike grabbed bolt cutters from the utility drawer. Let's find out. The first lock broke easily, decades of corrosion weakening the metal. The second required more effort, but finally gave way with a sharp crack. They exchanged glances. Then Mike slowly lifted the lid. Inside, wrapped in deteriorating plastic, lay 3 items. A tarnished high school class ring with dried brownish stains, a partial map of what appeared to be the farm property with several locations marked, and a cassette tape labeled simply 11 to 1497. Tyler carefully lifted the class ring, examining it under the kitchen light. Oak Ridge High, 1998. He turned it over, revealing initials engraved inside the band. A.S. The stains, Mike said quietly. That looks like blood. They spread the partial map on the table. It showed the north section of the farm with 4 X marks, one where Mike had found the box, the others scattered across the property. November 14th, 1997, Tyler read from the cassette label. That's what, almost 30 years ago? Do we even have something that can play this? Mike thought for a moment. Your grandfather's old study. He never threw anything away. In the rarely used back room that had belonged to Mike's father, they found a dusty cassette player in the desk drawer. Mike blew off the dust and checked for batteries. Still works, he said, pressing the power button. The small red light illuminated. They inserted the tape and pressed play. Static hissed through the small speaker, followed by what sounded like someone moving around. Then a young woman's voice, terrified and breathless. Please don't do this. I swear I won't tell anyone. A male voice, partially obscured by static. Too late for that. Marcus, please. Think about what you're doing. More static. Scuffle. Then the girl crying. Your father can't protect you from this. People will know. The tape degraded into unrecoverable static before cutting off entirely. Mike and Tyler sat in stunned silence. Marcus, Mike finally said. Marcus Whitley? Tyler frowned. The judge? That Marcus Whitley? How many Marcus Whitleys do you know in Oak Ridge County? Mike rubbed his face. He wasn't a judge back then. County prosecutor, I think. And now, he's running for state senate. Tyler pulled out his phone, quickly searching. Look at this. He showed his father a campaign photo of Judge Marcus Whitley, distinguished gray at his temples, confident smile, shaking hands with the governor. The headline read, Whitley leads polls in Senate race, Promises to bring law and order values to Washington. Dad, if that's him on the tape. Mike stared at the blood-stained ring. A.S. The girl Mabel mentioned at the diner, Sullivan. She went missing around the time this tape was made. We need to know more about her. Tyler was already typing on his phone. Carefully, Mike cautioned. If Judge Whitley is involved and Sheriff Taylor is covering for him. Tyler looked up. Sharply. You think the sheriff is part of this? I think he knows something. He didn't want us to have this box for a reason. Mike rewound the tape, listening again to the terrified voice. This girl, whoever she was scared for her life, and she knew Marcus Whitley. The cassette player clicked as the tape ended. In the silence that followed, Mike became aware of a car approaching the farmhouse, its headlights sweeping across the windows. Were you expecting someone? Tyler asked. Mike moved to the window, watching as a patrol car pulled into the driveway. It's David, and he's not alone. 2 additional cruisers parked behind the sheriff's vehicle. Deputies emerged, hands resting, near their holstered weapons. Put everything back in the box, Mike instructed quietly. Now, Tyler quickly gathered the items while Mike went to answer the increasingly insistent knocking. Sheriff Taylor stood on the porch, flanked by his deputies. His expression was grim. Mike, he said flatly, we need to talk about that box. Mike blocked the doorway, keeping the screen door between them. Little late for a social call, David. This isn't social. That box you found is now evidence in an ongoing investigation. What investigation? You said it was just protocol earlier. Sheriff Taylor's jaw tightened. New information has come to light. We need to take the box and any contents as potential evidence. Mike heard Tyler moving behind him, hopefully hiding the items somewhere better than the kitchen table. You all ready? Had the box and gave it back, Mike said. What changed in the last 2 hours? Don't make this difficult. The sheriff's hand rested casually on his holstered weapon. Where's the box, Mike? Dad? Tyler appeared beside him. What's going on? Sheriff Taylor's gaze shifted to Tyler. Your father found something that relates to a sensitive case. We need to process it properly. A 30-year-old case? Tyler asked pointedly. The sheriff's expression hardened. So you opened it? Mike sighed. Come in, David. Just you. The sheriff hesitated, then nodded to his deputies to stay put. Inside, he spotted the empty box on the table, the cut padlocks beside it. Where are the contents? He demanded. What can you tell us about Amber Sullivan? Mike countered. The name hit Sheriff Taylor like a physical blow. He recovered quickly, but not before Mike caught the reaction. This isn't a negotiation. Those items are evidence. Evidence of what happened to her, or evidence of who was involved. Mike stepped closer. We heard the tape, David. We heard Marcus Whitley's name. The sheriff's face paled. You have no idea what you're getting into. Then explain it to me. I can't. For a moment, genuine regret crossed the sheriff's features. But I'm trying to protect you. You and Tyler both, by covering up what happened to that girl. Sheriff Taylor's voice dropped to a near whisper. Do you know who Judge Whitley is now? What he can do? The connections he has? Is that why you're here? He sent you? The sheriff didn't answer directly. Where are the items from the box? Tyler spoke up. Does Judge Whitley know we found it? Listen to me carefully. Sheriff Taylor moved closer, speaking urgently. Marcus Whitley is days away from securing a state senate nomination. He has powerful friends, people who've invested millions in his future. And Amber Sullivan? Mike pressed. A 30-year-old missing persons case won't bring her back. The sheriff's expression hardened. But it could destroy a lot of lives in the present, including yours. Is that a threat? It's reality. Sheriff Taylor glanced toward the window where his deputies waited. I've known you since we were kids, Mike. I don't want to see anything happen to you or Tyler. Something already happened to Amber Sullivan, Tyler interjected. Doesn't she deserve justice? The sheriff's face clouded. Justice is complicated. Not to me, Mike said. Not when there's a girl's blood on a class ring buried on my property. Sheriff Taylor's hand moved back to his holster. Final chance. The contents of that box are coming with me tonight, one way or another. The tension in the room crackled between them. After a long moment, Mike nodded to Tyler, who disappeared briefly before returning with the items. Smart decision, the sheriff said, gathering them. As he reached for the cassette tape, Mike asked, What happens when we tell people what we heard? Sheriff Taylor paused. For your family's sake, forget what you heard tonight. Pretend you never found that box. His voice lowered. Marcus Whitley isn't someone you want as an enemy. His son even less so. His son? The sheriff didn't elaborate, moving toward the door. Stay out of this, Mike, for everyone's safety. After the cruisers disappeared down the driveway, Tyler turned to his father. You just let him take everything? Mike walked to the bookshelf and removed a worn copy of Moby Dick. From between its pages, he withdrew the map they'd found in the box. Not everything. Morning light filtered through the kitchen windows as Tyler hunched over his laptop. Mike set down a fresh cup of coffee beside him. Anything? Plenty. Tyler scrolled through archived newspaper articles. Amber Sullivan, 17, reported. Missing November 15th, 1997. Last seen leaving basketball practice at Oak Ridge High School. Mike studied the grainy photograph on screen. A pretty girl with dark hair and a confident smile, wearing a basketball uniform. Senior year, Tyler continued. Honor roll student. Accepted to State University on an academic scholarship. According to this article, police classified her as a probable runaway, despite her family's insistence she wouldn't leave without warning. The sheriff mentioned a son, Mike said. Judge Whitley's son, Tyler typed rapidly. Marcus Whitley Jr. goes by Mark. Same graduation year as Amber Sullivan. He found a yearbook photo showing a handsome young man with his father's confident smile. Football team captain. Now runs the family real estate development company. Any connection between them? Not obvious from these articles. Tyler opened another tab. But look at this. He enlarged a yearbook photo of the debate team. Amber Sullivan stood at one end, while Mark Whitley was positioned at the opposite side. They knew each other. The ring, Mike remembered. Can you find a clearer picture of her? Tyler searched further, finally finding a higher resolution senior portrait. Amber Sullivan wore a class ring prominently displayed on her right hand. That's it, Mike confirmed. That's the ring we found. The investigation was closed after 3 weeks, Tyler noted, skimming a follow-up article. Handled personally by County Prosecutor Marcus Whitley Sr., who cited evidence she had been planning to leave. He looked up at his father. Guess who was sheriff back then? Taylor? No, but David Taylor was a rookie deputy assigned to the case. Mike paced the kitchen. So Taylor knows exactly what happened to her and who was involved. Tyler leaned back, expression troubled. The article mentions a boyfriend, but never names him. What about the blood on her ring? That suggests something violent. Nothing about blood evidence in any of these reports. Tyler clicked to another article. Her parents insisted she was in good spirits, excited about college. Her disappearance made no sense to them. Are they still around? Tyler shook his head. Father died in 2010. Mother moved to Florida. But her younger sister still lives in Millfield, the next county over. Mike checked his watch. That's less than an hour away. I was thinking the same thing, Tyler said, closing his laptop. But what about the map? Those other marked locations? We checked those too, but carefully. Taylor will be watching the property. As they prepared to leave, Tyler's phone chimed with a news alert. He frowned, reading the notification. Judge Marcus Whitley just announced a press conference for tomorrow. He's expected to receive the governor's official endorsement for his Senate campaign. Mike stared at the partial property map on the table. 30 years he's been building his reputation, climbing the ladder, and now he's about to reach the Senate. Perfect timing for old secrets to resurface, Tyler noted. If the blood on that ring is Amber Sullivan's, and Judge Whitley or his son were involved in what happened to her, Tyler finished the thought. It would destroy everything he's built. No wonder the sheriff was so adamant about getting that evidence back. But they don't know we kept the map, Tyler reminded him. Mike folded the worn paper carefully. And they don't know we're talking to Amber's sister. The road to Millfield wound through farmland similar to their own. Mike drove while Tyler researched. Harold Benson, the man who had sold the farm to Mike's father in 1998. Found him, Tyler announced. He's at Sunshine Valley Care Home in Phoenix. Been there 8 years according to their resident listing. Mike nodded thoughtfully. We should talk to him too. Arizona's a bit far for a day trip. Could call, maybe. Tyler frowned. But these places usually have strict protocols about resident communication. They arrived at a modest housing development in Millfield. The address they had for Catherine Sullivan Baker, Amber's younger sister, led them to a well-kept ranch, house with flower boxes under the windows, A woman in her mid-40s answered their knock, auburn hair streaked with gray. Her expression was guarded. "Mrs. Baker? Catherine Baker?" Mike asked. "Yes, my name is Mike Reynolds. This is my son Tyler. We own the old Benson property in Oak Ridge County." Recognition flickered across her features. "The farm where they looked for Amber. May we come in? We found something you should know about." She hesitated, then stepped aside. "My husband is at work. We have 20 minutes before I need to pick up my daughter." In her tidy living room, they explained about finding the box, the ring, and the tape. Catherine Baker listened silently, hands clasped tightly in her lap. "They searched that property," she said finally. "For weeks. How did they miss a metal box?" "It was buried deep," Mike explained. "And it seems not everyone wanted it found. Her mouth tightened. Sheriff Patterson back then, he kept saying she ran away, but Amber would never. She had plans, a scholarship. She was happy." "The tape mentioned someone named Marcus," Tyler said gently. "Did your sister know Marcus Whitley or his son Mark?" Catherine's expression darkened. "Mark Whitley, the golden boy who got away with everything because of his father. Yes, she knew him. Everyone did. Were they dating? God, no. Amber couldn't stand him." She looked away. But a month before she disappeared, something changed. She became secretive, anxious. "I was only 13, but I knew something was wrong." "Did she say what?" "Not to me, but I overheard her arguing with our mother. Something about other girls and coming forward. Mom told her to leave it alone, that no one would believe her over the Whitleys." Mike leaned forward. "And the next day, she went to basketball practice and never came home." Catherine wiped a tear. "His father handled the investigation personally, claimed they found a bus ticket and withdrawal from her savings account, but we never believed it." Tyler pulled out his phone. "Would you recognize her ring?" Catherine nodded, and Tyler showed her the photo he had taken before surrendering it to the sheriff. Her hand flew to her mouth. "That's Amber's ring. Those stains. We think it might be blood," Mike said quietly. Her eyes hardened. "All these years I knew she didn't run away. I knew it." Their 20 minutes had stretched to 30 when Mike noticed a patrol car driving slowly past the house. "We should go," he said, rising. "But one more question. Do you know anything about Harold Benson, who owned our farm back then?" "Mr. Benson?" Catherine nodded. "He helped with the search more than the police did. Tore his property apart looking for her. Then suddenly, he sold everything and left town. Right after your sister disappeared, within weeks, people said he had a breakdown from the stress. She walked them to the door. What will you do with this information?" "Try to find the truth," Mike promised. "For Amber." As they drove away, Tyler made a decision. "We need to talk to Harold Benson. Today. Arizona is 20 hours away. Not in person, on the phone." Mike considered this. Worth a try. At a roadside diner, Tyler called Sunshine Valley Care Home, claiming to be Harold Benson's grandson, with urgent family news. After several transfers and verifications, they were connected to his room. An elderly, wavering voice answered. "Hello, Mr. Benson? This is Mike Reynolds. My father bought your farm in Oak Ridge County." A long pause followed. "The North Field," the old man finally whispered. "Have they found her?" Mike and Tyler exchanged glances. "We found a box, Mr. Benson, with Amber Sullivan's ring." The old man's breathing became ragged. "I looked everywhere. Dug so many holes. Why? Did you leave so suddenly after she disappeared?" "They made me sell." Harold's voice quavered. "He said if I stayed, if I kept looking, my grandchildren would be next. Said she ran away, but I saw his boy that night, driving away from my property. The look on his face." A nurse's voice interrupted in the background. "Mr. Benson, it's time for your medication. They're listening," Harold whispered urgently. "Always listening. Check the old well, western corner. I had to protect my family." The line went dead. The drive back to the farm was tense with unspoken thoughts. Night had fallen by the time they turned onto the gravel road leading to their property. "The western corner," Tyler said, breaking the silence. "That matches one of the marks on our map." "An old well," Mike nodded. "I remember my father mentioning it was filled in before we moved here." Tyler checked the map again by phone light. "All 4 marked locations. They form a rough square across the north field." Mike slowed the truck, noticing something unusual. "Our lights are off." Power outage? Maybe. But Mike felt a prickle of unease. He killed the headlights and coasted. The final quarter mile. As they approached, Mike spotted an unfamiliar sedan parked behind the barn, partially hidden from the main road. "Someone's here," he whispered, stopping well short of the driveway. Tyler squinted through the darkness. "Is that movement by the irrigation trench?" Mike saw it too. Flashlight beams, at least two, moving across the north field precisely where he had found the box. "Stay here," he instructed, reaching under his seat for the shotgun he kept for coyotes. "No way," Tyler replied, already opening his door. "We go together." They approached silently across the darkened field, keeping low. As they drew closer, they could make out two figures digging methodically in the soft earth. "Looking for more evidence," Tyler whispered. One of the men stood, stretching his back. "Nothing here. Are you sure this is where the old man said?" "This is where Reynolds found the box," the second man replied, voice familiar though Mike couldn't place it. "Keep digging." Mike motioned for Tyler to circle around while he approached from the opposite direction. The autumn air carried their voices clearly across the empty field. "Judge wants everything contained before tomorrow's announcement." "The Jats," first man said, resuming his digging. "You think Reynolds knows what he found?" "Taylor says he heard the tape." "Jesus. And the boy?" "Both problems that need solving." Mike had heard enough. He raised the shotgun and chambered around loudly. "This is private property," he called out. "Drop the shovels and put your hands up." The men froze. Then the taller one lunged for something at his feet. Mike fired a warning shot into the air, and both men scattered, abandoning their tools. Tyler appeared from the other direction as the intruders fled toward their vehicle. "Dad, careful!" One man turned, raising what looked like a pistol. Mike fired again, this time into the ground near the man's feet. The warning was sufficient. Both scrambled into their sedan and peeled away, leaving a trail of dust. "Get the license!" "Plate?" Mike asked, lowering the shotgun. "Too dark." Tyler approached the abandoned dig site. "But I got this." He held up a business card that had fallen from one of the men's pockets. In the beam of Tyler's phone light, they could make out the embossed lettering. "Mark Whitley, CEO, Whitley Development Corp." "Judge Whitley's son," Mike confirmed. "Sending people to search our property in the middle of the night. They know we kept something back, or they're looking for more evidence to remove before anyone else finds it." Tyler studied the business card. "That voice you recognized?" "Not sure, but it sounded like someone from the sheriff's department." They surveyed the field, noting the churned earth where the men had been digging. "They were right on top of where I found the box," Mike observed. "Dad, we need to check those other locations on the map before they come back, especially that old well Harold mentioned." "Not tonight," Mike decided. "They might return with reinforcements. We wait till morning, then check the western corner first." Back at the house, they found the circuit breaker had been tripped, explaining the darkness. Mike restored power while Tyler secured the doors and windows. "We should take shifts sleeping," Tyler suggested. "They might come back." "Agreed." Mike checked his watch. "I'll take first watch. Get some rest." As Tyler headed upstairs, Mike called after him. "And Tyler? First thing tomorrow, make copies of that map. Digital and physical. We need insurance." Tyler paused on the stairs. "What about going to the state police? With what? A second-hand account of a 30-year-old tape we no longer possess? A map with X marks? We need more concrete evidence. And if we find it?" Mike's expression hardened. "Then we make sure everyone knows what Judge Whitley and his son did to Amber Sullivan." Dawn broke with no further disturbances. After a hasty breakfast, Mike and Tyler agreed they needed help from someone with resources and credibility. "The police are compromised," Tyler reasoned, "and we can't go directly to the FBI without more evidence. We need someone who can investigate independently." "Press," Mike suggested. "Someone not connected to local politics." Tyler searched online for journalists who had covered cold cases in the region. "Jennifer Chen," he said after several minutes. "She wrote a series on unsolved disappearances in rural counties 5 years ago. Tried to reopen the Amber Sullivan case, but hit roadblocks." "Where is she now?" "Regional bureau chief for the State Tribune in the capital." Tyler scrolled through her recent articles. "Specializes in political corruption and cold cases. Perfect combination." Mike nodded. "Can you reach her?" After several calls and a convincing pitch to her assistant, they secured a meeting with Jennifer Chen that afternoon at a coffee shop in a neighboring county. Jennifer arrived precisely on time, a compact woman in her 30s with sharp eyes. and a notebook already open. "You have 20 minutes, she said without preamble. "Convince me this isn't a waste of time." Mike outlined their discovery, the blood-stained ring, the cassette recording, and Sheriff Taylor's suspicious behavior. Jennifer remained expressionless. "You no longer have the physical evidence. We have the map," Tyler countered, sliding a copy across the table. "And testimony from Amber's sister and Harold Benson about threats from the Whitley family." "Hearsay," Jennifer dismissed. "And an old man with dementia. We also have this." Tyler produced the business card. "From men trespassing on our property last night digging where the box was found." This caught her attention. "Mark Whitley sent people to your farm, or his father." "Did." Jennifer tapped her pen thoughtfully. "I tried to investigate Amber's disappearance years ago. Every lead dried up, records mysteriously incomplete, witnesses suddenly uncooperative. Because Judge Whitley buried the evidence," Mike said. "Literally on my property, and now he's about to get the governor's endorsement for Senate." Jennifer's eyes narrowed. "Timing is interesting. Will you help us?" Tyler asked. Jennifer closed her notebook. "Maybe, but I need more than a map and second-hand accounts." "Harold Benson mentioned an old well in the western corner of the property," Mike said. "We're checking it today. Journalists can't participate in unsanctioned excavations." Her tone was professional, but Mike caught a glint of interest in her eyes. "But I can meet you afterward." She rose to leave, then hesitated. "One question. Why are you pursuing this? Most people would walk away after being warned off by the sheriff." Mike thought about Amber Sullivan's smile in her yearbook photo. "Because that girl deserves justice, and because it happened on my land." Jennifer studied him for a moment, then nodded. "Call me if you find anything concrete. And be careful. The Whitleys didn't get where they are by playing nice." Back at the farm, Mike and Tyler examined the property map carefully. "The western corner," Mike pointed. "According to county records, there was a well there until 1998 when it was properly decommissioned and filled in. Right after Amber disappeared," Tyler noted. "And right before Benson sold the property to my father. They gathered shovels, a metal detector, and Tyler's drone for aerial surveillance." "We need to be strategic," Mike cautioned. "If the sheriff has people watching the property, we can't be obvious about what we're doing." "I'll fly the drone first," Tyler suggested. "Map the whole area. That way, if anyone asks, we're just surveying for the new irrigation system." "Smart." "And I'll bring the tractor out. Make it look like regular farm work." They had just loaded their equipment when Tyler spotted a car approaching slowly. "Company," he warned. Mike tensed, then relaxed slightly as he recognized the vehicle. "It's Jennifer Chen." The journalist parked and approached them, now dressed in jeans and boots. I reconsidered. Professional curiosity. "I thought journalists couldn't participate in unsanctioned excavations," Tyler reminded her. "I'm not participating. I'm observing." She held up a professional camera. "And documenting. If you do find evidence of a crime, you'll need an independent witness." Mike considered this. "Fair enough, but we do this carefully." As they prepared to leave for the western corner, Jennifer pulled out a folder. "Background on Amber Sullivan," she explained. "I kept all my research from 5 years ago. Thought it might help." She spread several documents on the hood of Mike's truck. Amber was investigating something before she disappeared. Her debate coach told me she was gathering testimony from other girls, but wouldn't say about what. "Other girls," Tyler recalled. Catherine Baker's words. "Her sister mentioned something about that. About other girls and coming forward." Jennifer nodded. 3 other female students transferred out of Oak Ridge High that same semester. All abruptly, all to different states. "You think they were connected to whatever Amber was investigating?" "I tried to track them down years ago." "One refused to talk. One denied knowing Amber well. And the third?" Jennifer hesitated. "The third died in a single car accident 2 years after leaving Oak Ridge. And let me guess," Mike said grimly. "Mark Whitley was connected to all of them. He dated at least one," Jennifer confirmed. "The debate coach hinted at a pattern of behavior, but clammed up when I pushed for details. Sexual assault," Tyler concluded quietly. "That would explain why Amber was gathering testimony," Mike said. "She was building a case against the prosecutor's son." Jennifer closed her folder. "That's my theory. But without evidence or witnesses willing to speak on record, maybe we'll find that evidence today," Mike said, staring toward the western corner of his property. "And finally get justice for Amber Sullivan." The western corner of the property lay beyond a stand of oak trees, rarely visited even by Mike. Tyler's drone buzzed overhead, mapping the terrain while Jennifer documented their approach with her camera. There, Mike pointed to a circular depression in the ground, approximately 15 feet in diameter. That would be the old well. Jennifer consulted a county document from her research folder. According to this, it was a stone well dating back to the 1920s, decommissioned and filled in January 1998, 2 months after Amber disappeared, Tyler noted. Mike examined the map again. The X isn't directly on the well. It's about 20 feet north. They moved to the spot, finding nothing obvious on the surface. Tyler activated the metal detector, sweeping it in widening circles. Nothing yet. Keep looking, Mike encouraged, starting to dig at the center of the marked area. After 30 minutes of methodical searching, Tyler's metal detector finally signaled. Got something, Jennifer documented as they carefully excavated the spot. 6 inches down, they uncovered a rusted metal container similar to the first box, but smaller. Another one, Mike breathed. This box had no padlock, its simple latch corroded, but intact. Mike pried it open while Jennifer recorded. Inside lay a sealed plastic bag containing what appeared to be a torn piece of clothing, dark stains visible on the fabric, and a small notebook protected in plastic wrap. Evidence, Jennifer murmured, photographing everything in place. Tyler carefully opened the notebook, its pages stiff with age. Dates, initials, descriptions. He looked up grimly. It's a record of assaults. Mike read over his shoulder. The neat handwriting detailed incidents spanning 2 years, each entry including dates, locations, and the initials of victims, and a perpetrator consistently identified as M.W. Mark Whitley, Jennifer confirmed. Amber was building a case against him. There are at least 5 different sets of victim initials here, Tyler noted, including A.S. Amber Sullivan. Jennifer's expression hardened. This is what got her killed. We don't know that for certain, Mike cautioned, though his tone suggested otherwise. The blood on her ring, this torn clothing, Jennifer gestured to the items, and now her record of Whitley's assaults. It all points to murder. Tyler studied the map again. There are 2 more locations marked. We should check them all. The second location, near where Mike had originally found the box, yielded nothing despite an hour of searching. Disturbed earth, Mike observed. Someone's been digging here recently. The men from last night, Tyler suggested. Or the sheriff, Jennifer added. They may have already removed whatever was buried here. At the third location, the metal detector signaled again. This time they unearthed a waterproof tube containing what appeared to be a cassette tape, identical to the one they'd found originally. A backup, Mike realized. Amber made copies. Smart girl, Jennifer said softly. Tyler checked the final location on the map, approximately 50 yards from the filled-in well. That's where we're most likely to find. He hesitated. Her remains, Jennifer finished quietly. Mike glanced at the sun, now low in the western sky. It's getting dark. We should come back tomorrow with better equipment. And risk someone else finding it first? Tyler argued. We need to handle this properly, Mike insisted. If this is a crime scene, we can't just start digging. Jennifer was scrolling through her contacts. I know someone at the State Bureau of Investigation. Someone not connected to Oak Ridge County or Judge Whitley. With this evidence, they might launch an investigation. Can you trust them? Mike asked. More than the local sheriff. Jennifer held up the notebook and tape. This is enough to justify a formal investigation. Tyler photographed everything with his phone. We should make digital copies immediately. Insurance. Agreed, Jennifer said. My car has a tape player. Let's hear what Amber recorded. As they walked back toward the farmhouse, Mike couldn't shake the feeling they were being watched. He scanned the tree line, seeing nothing obvious but sensing a presence nonetheless. Let's move quickly, he urged. I don't think we're alone out here. Tyler glanced back at the western corner, now falling into shadow. Do you think she's really buried there? At that last spot? Mike thought of the innocent girl from the yearbook photo, of Catherine Baker still waiting for answers, of Harold Benson driven from his home by threats. Yes, he said grimly, and I think the Whitleys know it, too. In Jennifer's car, they inserted the cassette with trembling hands. Unlike the degraded first tape, this recording was chillingly clear. November 14th, 1997, Amber's voice stated calmly. This is my record of confronting Mark Whitley about the assaults. What followed was the complete version of the fragment they'd heard earlier. Amber confronting Mark about attacking multiple girls, his initial denials, then threats. The conversation moved outside, apparently recorded without Mark's knowledge. You think anyone will believe you over me? Mark's voice was coldly confident. My father will destroy you and your family. Other girls are ready to come forward, Amber countered. Together they'll believe us. You stupid bitch, Mark snarled, his voice suddenly vicious. You have no idea who you're dealing with. A scuffle followed, Amber's frightened breathing. Running footsteps. This is why I hid the evidence, Amber whispered, apparently after escaping. If anything happens to me, look at Mark Whitley, and his father who covers for him. The recording ended. Silence filled the car. My contact at the SBI can be here tomorrow morning, Jennifer said finally, her professional demeanor cracking slightly. This is definitive. Tyler looked troubled. Amber knew she was in danger. She prepared for the worst. And it happened anyway, Mike said grimly. They returned to the farmhouse to secure the evidence and plan their next steps. As Mike pulled into the driveway, he immediately sensed something wrong. The door's open, he noted, killing the engine. And that's not how we left it. Tyler tensed. Someone's been here. Wait in the car, Mike instructed Jennifer, retrieving his shotgun from behind the seat. Father and son approached cautiously. Inside, they found rooms ransacked, furniture overturned, and Tyler's laptop missing. They were looking for the map, Tyler surmised, and anything else related to Amber. Mike checked the hiding spots where they'd secured other copies. Still here, they didn't find everything. Relief was short-lived as Tyler called from upstairs. Dad! In Tyler's bedroom, a typed note lay centered on the pillow. You were warned. The consequences are on you. We have your son's academic records, fingerprints, and DNA from his room. A call to the right people, and drugs will be found in his dorm. Or worse, last chance. Declare publicly the box contained old farm equipment. 24 hours. Beside the note lay Tyler's university ID card, deliberately broken in half. Mike's hands shook with rage. They're threatening you now. Classic intimidation, Jennifer observed from the doorway, having ignored instructions to stay in the car. Exactly how they silenced Harold Benson. Tyler's phone rang. An unknown number. He answered. On speaker. Hello, Tyler Reynolds. The voice was professionally modulated, unidentifiable. I trust you found our message. Who is this? Tyler demanded. Someone concerned about your future, your promising academic career, your clean record, all hanging by a thread. What do you want? Your father knows. 24 hours. A simple statement to the press about an unfortunate misunderstanding regarding some old farm equipment. Your copies of all materials surrendered. And if we've already shared those materials with others? Mike interjected. A pause. Unwise. Very unwise. Especially for Tyler's continued well-being. The call disconnected. They're desperate, Jennifer observed. The governor's endorsement is tomorrow. The Senate nomination right after. Mike paced, furious and frightened. This is exactly what happened to Harold Benson. They threatened his grandchildren. And he gave in, Tyler added. Sold the farm, left town. He had no backup, Jennifer pointed out. You do, Mike checked his watch. Your SBI contact. Can we reach them tonight instead of tomorrow? I'll try. Jennifer stepped outside to make the call. Tyler gathered the evidence they'd collected. We should digitize everything, send copies to secure locations, and you should go somewhere safe, Mike insisted. They're targeting you specifically. I'm not leaving you to face this alone. Tyler. Mike gripped his son's shoulders. These people buried a girl on our property and have been covering it up for 30 years. They've threatened you directly. This isn't about bravery. It's about staying alive to make sure justice happens. Jennifer returned, her expression grim. My contact can't come until morning. But she suggested we leave immediately and meet her halfway. Then that's what we'll do, Mike decided. Pack essentials only. We leave in 5 minutes. As Tyler rushed to gather his things, Mike quickly loaded the shotgun and a hunting rifle into his truck. The rational part of his mind recognized the escalation, but threats against his son had crossed a line. When Tyler didn't return promptly, Mike called upstairs. Tyler, we need to move. Silence. Heart racing, Mike took the stairs 2 at a time. Tyler's room was empty, the window open to the evening air. On the floor lay his phone, a new text message displayed on the screen. We've moved up the timeline. Your son is safe for now. Final offer. Bring all evidence to the old well. 1 hour. Come alone. Mike stared at the message, cold terror gripping his chest. They took him, he told Jennifer, voice hollow. While we were right here. Jennifer immediately pulled out her phone. I'm calling my SBI contact. Now. No. Mike grabbed her wrist. They said come alone. 1 hour. If police show up, you can't seriously be considering meeting their demands, Jennifer protested. These people have already killed once. Mike checked his shotgun. They have my son, and if you go alone, they'll have you both. Jennifer's voice softened. Look, my contact gave me another name, someone who might help us immediately. Who? Robert Martinez, former deputy who resigned shortly after Amber disappeared. He lives about 40 minutes from here. Mike hesitated. How do we know he's not part of this? Because he was the only officer who pushed to keep investigating after Prosecutor Whitley closed the case. Jennifer was already heading for the door. We have 40 minutes before your deadline. Let's use it. The drive to Martinez's remote cabin was tense silence. Mike watched the minutes tick away, each one bringing Tyler's deadline closer. Robert Martinez lived down a long gravel drive, his modest home nestled against thick woods. Security lights activated as they approached, and before they reached the door, it opened to reveal a weathered Hispanic man in his 60s, holding a shotgun similar to Mike's. Private property, he called out. Robert Martinez? Jennifer approached, with hands visible. Jennifer Chen, State Tribune. We need your help. The former deputy regarded them suspiciously. Press badge. Slowly. After examining her credentials, Martinez reluctantly invited them inside but kept his shotgun nearby. His living room walls were covered with maps, newspaper clippings, and photographs connected by strings, many centered on the Whitley family. You've been investigating them, Mike observed. 30 years, Martinez confirmed. Since they forced me out for asking questions about Amber Sullivan. Quickly they explained the situation. Martinez listened without interruption, his expression darkening. They took your boy, he said when they finished. History repeating itself. First Harold Benson's grandchildren threatened, now yours actually. Taken. You knew about Benson being threatened? Mike asked. Martinez nodded grimly. I was still a deputy then. Heard Taylor and Whitley discussing it. Problem solved, they said. Benson's leaving town, so Sheriff Taylor was involved from the beginning, Jennifer confirmed. Up to his neck. Martinez moved to a filing cabinet, extracting a worn folder. I kept copies of everything before they purged the records. Autopsy request denied by the prosecutor. Forensic testing canceled. Witness statements altered. Mike checked his watch anxiously. I have 30 minutes to meet their deadline. You go alone. You're dead, Martinez stated flatly. And maybe your son, too. They can't leave witnesses now. I don't have a choice, Mike insisted. Yes, you do. Martinez pulled out a map of Mike's property. You said the meeting is at the old well? There's a maintenance road that circles behind it. I know that area like my own backyard. What are you suggesting? A counter-ambush. Martinez's eyes gleamed with 3 decades of pent-up determination. They expect one man, terrified and compliant. Instead, they get 3, approaching from different directions. I'm a journalist, not a soldier, Jennifer objected. Can you use a camera from cover? Martinez asked. Document everything? Jennifer nodded reluctantly. I need to call my SBI contact, she insisted. Have them on standby at least. No, Martinez countered. The state police have leaks. Judge Whitley has friends everywhere. We document everything ourselves, then present overwhelming evidence. And risk Tyler's life in the process, Mike said bitterly. Martinez fixed him with a steady gaze. They took your son to control you. They need you to bring the evidence first. He's leverage, not a target. Yet. That's not reassuring. It's not meant to be. It's reality. Martinez checked his own weapon. But I've waited 30 years to bring down Marcus Whitley. Tonight it ends, Mike deliberated, torn between the direct demand and Martinez's strategy. 25 minutes, he noted. Decision crystallizing. Tell me the plan. Martinez quickly outlined their approach. Mike would arrive at the designated time, appearing to comply. Martinez would position himself in the woods with a clear view of the meeting point. Jennifer would document from a different angle. When you confirm Tyler is physically present and unharmed, we move, Martinez explained. Not before. And if he's not there, then we retreat, regroup, and call in every agency not controlled by Whitley. That's the best we can do, Jennifer added gently. We're not miracle workers, Mike. Mike nodded, heart racing but mind clear. Let's go. Separate vehicles like we discussed. As they prepared to leave, Martinez handed Mike a small digital recorder. Keep this hidden. Get them talking if possible. 30 years ago, we had no proof. Tonight, we get everything. The drive back to the farm felt eternal, though it took barely 15 minutes. Mike parked where instructed, a quarter-mile from the old well, and began walking alone through the darkness, carrying a bag supposedly containing all the evidence. His phone vibrated with a text from an unknown number. Smart decision. Come to the well. Bring everything. Your son will be released when we verify the materials. As Mike approached the meeting point, he touched the recorder in his pocket and thought of Amber Sullivan, who had done something similar 30 years ago, trying to expose the truth. I hope you're watching, Amber, he whispered to the night. It's finally time. The night air carried a biting chill as Mike approached the old well. The depression in the earth was faintly visible in the moonlight, surrounded by overgrown grass. He scanned the area, seeing no one yet. I'm here, he called out, voice steady. Despite his racing heart, movement from the tree line. Two figures emerged, one significantly taller than the other. As they drew closer, Mike recognized Mark Whitley, now in his 50s but still carrying the entitled posture visible in his yearbook photos. Beside him, Sheriff Taylor gripped Tyler's arm tightly. Dad, Tyler called, voice tense but unharmed. Quiet, Taylor ordered. Mark Whitley stepped forward, his expensive coat incongruous in the rural setting. Mr. Reynolds, wise decision. Mike lifted the bag. Everything we found. Now let my son go. After we verify, Whitley countered smoothly. Sheriff, check the contents. Taylor shoved Tyler toward Whitley, who grabbed him roughly, then approached Mike to inspect the bag. The sheriff rifled through its contents. The notebook, cassette tape, torn clothing, and all copies of the map. It's all here, Taylor confirmed, plus their phones and the journalist's camera memory card. Mike had surrendered Jennifer's card as promised, though she had removed her actual documentation to a backup device. The copies? Whitley demanded. No, copies, Mike assured him. Everything's there. Whitley studied him skeptically. For your son's sake, I hope you're telling the truth. I've done what you asked, Mike said. Now let Tyler go. Whitley nodded to Taylor, who pulled out a lighter and began burning the notebook. Dad, Tyler protested. That's evidence of multiple crimes. Alleged crimes, Whitley corrected calmly. Fabricated by a disturbed young woman decades ago. Amber. Sullivan wasn't disturbed, Mike replied, activating the recorder in his pocket. She was gathering evidence against your pattern of sexual assaults. Whitley's expression hardened. Ancient history, even if it were true, which it wasn't. Then why bury the evidence? Why threaten Harold Benson into selling his property and leaving town? The question hung in the cold air. Whitley and Taylor exchanged glances. Statute of limitations expired long ago. Whitley said finally, even for the ridiculous allegations you're suggesting. Not for murder, Mike countered. And Amber's remains are still on my property, aren't they? That last X on the map. Taylor looked uncomfortable. Whitley's face remained impassive. Careful, Mr. Reynolds. You've secured your son's safety. Don't jeopardize it with wild accusations. Not accusations. Deductions. Mike took a calculated risk. We found the backup tape Amber made. We heard everything, which is now destroyed, Taylor said, burning the cassette. And the copy my father made before coming here? Tyler interjected. The one hidden in the barn wall? Mike shot his son a warning look, but Tyler continued. My grandfather always hid valuables in the barn wall. Dad found another waterproof container there this morning with a digital recorder inside. He made a copy of the tape before we even went to the second location. It was a complete fabrication, but Whitley didn't know that. His confident demeanor faltered slightly. Where is this alleged copy? Safe, Mike bluffed. Along with copies. Of everything else, including a sample of the blood from Amber's ring. DNA testing has come a long way in 30 years. Taylor looked increasingly nervous. Mark, maybe we should— Quiet, Whitley snapped. His calculating eyes never left Mike's face. You're lying, am I? My father bought this property from Harold Benson in early 1998. Did you ever wonder if Benson told him why he was selling so suddenly? If he mentioned what really happened to Amber Sullivan? This struck a nerve. Whitley's composure cracked. Your father knew nothing. He knew everything, Mike countered, though it was another bluff, including what's buried in that last marked location. He just couldn't prove it then, but he kept records, waiting for the right time. Taylor was visibly sweating now despite the cold. Mark, this is getting out of hand. I said, quiet, Whitley hissed. From the woods, a twig snapped. Whitley spun toward the sound. Who else is here? He demanded. You were told to come alone. Mike seized the distraction to signal Tyler, who immediately drove an elbow into Whitley's ribs and broke free, running toward his father. Run! Mike shouted, shoving his son toward the trees where Martinez waited. Taylor drew his service weapon. Stop right there! Put it down, David, came Martinez's voice from the darkness, the distinctive sound of a shotgun being chambered following his words. It's over, Martinez. Taylor sounded incredulous. You disappeared years ago. Not far enough, the former deputy replied, emerging from the tree line with his weapon trained on the sheriff. I've been waiting for this moment since you and Whitley forced me out. Jennifer stepped from her hiding place, camera recording. This is all being documented, Sheriff Taylor. Lower your weapon. Surrounded, Taylor hesitated, then slowly lowered his gun. Whitley, however, had recovered both his composure and a small pistol from his coat pocket. This changes nothing, he snarled. No evidence, no witnesses. He raised the weapon toward Mike and Tyler. 3 shots rang out in rapid succession across the moonlit field. Time seemed to freeze as the gunshots echoed across the field. Whitley staggered backward, clutching his shoulder, his own weapon unfired. Taylor had thrown himself to the ground, hands covering his head. Martinez stood firm, shotgun still aimed. Next one won't be a warning shot. You shot me, Whitley gasped incredulously, blood seeping between his fingers. Just winged you, Martinez corrected. 30 years as a marksman. If I wanted you dead, you would be. Mike rushed to Tyler, pulling him behind the shelter of a large oak tree. Jennifer continued filming, documenting everything. It's over, Mark, Sheriff Taylor said, rising slowly with hands visible. We need to end this now. End this? Whitley snarled through pain. The only thing ending is your career if you don't handle this situation. Handle it how? Taylor demanded, a lifetime of obedience finally cracking. There's a journalist recording everything. Martinez is armed and has copies of the original evidence. It's finished. Nothing is finished until I say it is, Whitley hissed. My father built this family's reputation over 50 years. I protected it. You think I'll let some farmer and a disgraced deputy destroy it now? Your father helped cover up Amber Sullivan's murder, Mike accused, recorder still running in his pocket. Just like he covered up your assaults on other girls. My father handled a regrettable accident, Whitley snapped, then realized his mistake. Jennifer zoomed her camera closer. So you admit something happened to Amber Sullivan? Whitley glared at her. I admit nothing. This is an ambush based on fabricated evidence. Then explain why you buried that evidence on my property, Mike challenged. I did no such thing. Sheriff Taylor let out a hollow laugh. Stop lying, Mark. For once in your life, stop lying. He turned to Mike. It wasn't murder, not exactly. Not premeditated. David, Whitley warned. Taylor ignored him. It was an accident. Mark confronted Amber about the accusation she was gathering. Things got heated. He pushed her. She fell and hit her head on a rock near the well. An accident. You helped cover up, Martinez said. Prosecutor Whitley said it would ruin his son's life, Taylor continued. The decades of guilt finally spilling out. Said no one would believe it was an accident given the allegations Amber was making. He convinced me it was better for everyone to make it look like she ran away. Better for everyone except Amber, Jennifer noted coldly, and her family. Mike added. Who never got closure. We never meant for it to happen, Taylor insisted. But you meant the cover-up, Martinez countered. You meant threatening Harold Benson. You meant forcing me out when I asked questions. Whitley had grown dangerously quiet, calculating even through his pain. This is all very dramatic, but ultimately unprovable. Your recording is inadmissible. Without consent, the evidence is destroyed. It's our word against yours. Except for one thing, Tyler spoke up. Amber's remains, the final location on the map. Which no longer exists, Whitley said confidently. But I memorized it, Tyler replied. And so did my father and Jennifer. And Martinez has a copy too. Whitley's eyes darted between them, his wounded shoulder apparently forgotten as panic set. "In! David!" he commanded the sheriff. "Arrest them all for assault and kidnapping." Taylor didn't move. "No, Mark, not anymore. You're with me, remember? I made your career, and I've regretted it for 30 years. Taylor said quietly. Mike stepped forward. "Here's what happens now. We call the State Bureau of Investigation. They excavate the final site with proper forensic protocols. Amber gets a proper burial, and her family gets closure. And in return?" Whitley asked, coldly pragmatic even now. "No deals," Martinez interrupted. "Not this time." Headlights suddenly illuminated the standoff as vehicles approached from the main road. Multiple cars with official markings pulled up, and uniformed officers spilled out. Jennifer lowered her camera. "My SBI contact. I texted her our location before we left Martinez's cabin. Insurance policy." As the agents approached, weapons drawn, Sheriff Taylor placed his service pistol on the ground. "David Taylor," he identified himself. "And I have a 30-year-old confession to make." Dawn broke over a transformed landscape. The western corner of the Reynolds farm had become a hive of activity, with SBI forensic teams working methodically around the old well and the final marked location. Mike and Tyler sat on the tailgate of the truck, watching from a distance, exhaustion evident on their faces after a night of statements and processing. "How long will it take?" Tyler asked Jennifer, who was documenting the excavation with her camera. "Depends what they find," she replied. "Could be hours, could be days." Martinez joined them, carrying coffee from a mobile support unit the SBI had established. "Sheriff Taylor is cooperating fully," he informed them. "Spent the night giving a comprehensive statement. 30 years of cover-up, all on record now." "And Whitley?" Mike asked. "Treated for the shoulder wound, then taken into custody. His lawyer arrived at dawn, but the SBI has him isolated. The evidence against him is mounting." Jennifer checked her phone. "My editor has the story ready to go live the moment they recover." "Anything conclusive?" Mike nodded grimly. "They will. That last X on the map. I'm certain that's where they buried her." Around mid-morning, activity at the excavation site intensified. The lead SBI investigator, Agent Harmon, approached their position. "Mr. Reynolds," she addressed Mike formally, "we've found human remains." Despite expecting this, the confirmation hit Mike like a physical blow. Tyler placed a steadying hand on his father's shoulder. "Can you make an identification?" Jennifer asked. "Not yet, but the preliminary assessment matches a 17-year-old female, consistent with Amber Sullivan's description. And we found this." She held up an evidence bag containing a tarnished necklace with a small pendant. Martinez leaned forward. "That's Amber's. Her graduation present from her parents. She always wore it." Agent Harmon nodded. "We'll need DNA confirmation from the family, but this is now officially a homicide investigation." As she returned to the excavation, Tyler turned to his father. "What happens now?" "Justice," Mike said simply. Finally. By afternoon, news vans had gathered at the edge of the property. The governor had canceled his endorsement event for Judge Whitley's Senate campaign and issued a statement expressing shock at the allegations. Martinez watched the commotion with grim satisfaction. 30 years. "Sometimes I thought this day would never come." "You never gave up," Mike observed. "Neither did Amber," Martinez replied. "Smart enough to hide evidence in multiple locations, brave enough to confront her attacker." Jennifer rejoined them after speaking with her editor. "Story goes live in 30 minutes. The Sullivan family has been notified." "How did they take it?" Tyler asked. "Mixed emotions. Relief at finally knowing, grief at the confirmation. Catherine Baker is driving up from Millfield now." Mike stood. "I should be the one to meet her." "We'll come with you," Tyler offered. At the main road, they waited for Catherine's arrival. When her car pulled up, Mike stepped forward, uncertain what to say to the woman whose sister had been buried on his land for 3 decades. Catherine Baker emerged, her face drawn but composed. Without a word, she embraced Mike tightly. "Thank ye."
"You," she whispered, "for not giving up, for finding her."
"I'm so sorry," Mike managed. Catherine stepped back, wiping tears. "Can I see her?" "They're still working," Jennifer explained gently. "But they found her necklace, the one your parents gave her." Fresh tears flowed, but Catherine nodded resolutely. "Mom and Dad died never knowing. At least now we can bring her home." As they walked toward the excavation site, Catherine suddenly stopped, staring at Martinez. "You're the deputy," she recalled, "the one who kept looking when everyone else stopped." Martinez nodded uncomfortably. "I didn't do enough." "You never believed she ran away," Catherine countered. "That meant something to our family." A commotion near the property entrance drew their attention. A black SUV had arrived, and Mark Whitley Jr. emerged, now in handcuffs and escorted by SBI agents. "They're bringing him to identify the scene," Agent Harmon explained, approaching their group. "Part of building the case." Catherine's expression hardened as she watched her sister's killer being led toward the excavation site. "All these years," she said quietly, "living free while Amber lay here alone." "Not anymore," Mike assured her. "She's found now, and everyone will know the truth about what happened to her." Martinez placed a supportive hand on Catherine's shoulder. "We kept our promise, Amber," he murmured, gazing toward the site where the young woman's remains were finally being recovered with dignity and care. 3 days after the confrontation at the well, Mike stood at his kitchen window watching the continued activity on his property. The SBI had expanded their investigation, methodically examining all 4 locations marked on Amber's map. Jennifer's story had broken nationally, sending shockwaves through the political establishment. Judge Marcus Whitley Sr. had been taken into custody while attempting to board a private plane, adding flight risk to the mounting charges against him. Tyler entered the kitchen, newspaper in hand. We made the front page again. The headline read, "Justice Buried. How a Farmer's Discovery Unearthed a Decades-Old Murder and Political Cover-Up." "Jennifer writes well," Mike observed, scanning the article. "She called earlier," Tyler said. "The other victims are coming forward now. 3 women from our high school who transferred suddenly after encounters with Mark Whitley. They're all willing to testify about the assaults. Too late for criminal charges on those, but it establishes pattern and motive." Tyler nodded. "And validates everything Amber documented in her notebook." A knock at the door announced Agent Harmon's arrival. The SBI investigator had maintained regular contact with the Reynolds family throughout the investigation. "Mr. Reynolds," she greeted Mike formally. "We have several updates I thought you should hear directly from me." They settled at the kitchen table as Harmon opened her portfolio. "The DNA results are conclusive. The remains are indeed Amber Sullivan's. Cause of death appears consistent with Sheriff Taylor's statement about a fall and head trauma." Mike absorbed this with a solemn nod. "What about the other sites?" "The second location contained a container with additional documentation, just as you suspected. Letters from other victims, photographs, a journal. Amber was building a comprehensive case." "And the third site?" Tyler asked. "Where we found nothing?" "We believe something was there originally. Ground-penetrating radar shows disturbed soil consistent with previous excavation. Sheriff Taylor confirmed they returned approximately 5 years ago to remove additional evidence when Judge Whitley's first judicial appointment was being considered. Covering their tracks," Mike said bitterly. "Fortunately, they missed the other locations," Harmon continued. "We've also interviewed Harold Benson again, this time with proper support for his memory issues. He confirmed being threatened into selling the property quickly after Amber's disappearance." "Will the case hold up?" Tyler asked. "After so much time?" "Murder has no statute of limitations," Harmon replied confidently. "With Taylor's testimony, the recovered evidence, and forensic analysis, we have a strong case against both Whitleys and several accomplices." She paused, glancing at her notes. "We've also uncovered evidence suggesting Amber wasn't the first victim whose case was manipulated by Prosecutor Whitley. We've reopened 3 additional suspicious disappearances from the 1990s. Mike shook. His head, the scale of the corruption becoming clearer. How did they get away with it for so long? Small town, powerful family, limited oversight. Harmon's professional demeanor softened slightly. But it only took one person willing to keep looking, like you. "I just found a box," Mike demurred. "And pursued the truth despite threats to yourself and your son," she countered. "Not everyone would have done that." After Agent Harmon departed, Martinez arrived with Catherine Baker. Over the past days, an unlikely bond had formed between the former deputy and Amber's sister as they processed 30 years of unresolved grief and questions. The medical examiner is releasing Amber's remains tomorrow, Catherine informed them. We're having a proper funeral on Saturday. We'll be there, Mike promised. Martinez looked around the kitchen, tension evident in his posture. The SBI found something else this morning. Something they haven't released to the press yet. Mike and Tyler exchanged concerned glances. Another victim? Tyler guessed. Martinez shook his head. Financial records. Prosecutor Whitley didn't just help his son cover up Amber's death. He actively destroyed evidence in at least 7 other cases involving wealthy or connected individuals in this county. Sexual assaults, embezzlement, even a vehicular manslaughter case from 1995. Systematic corruption, Catherine said softly. And my sister stumbled into the middle of it. She didn't just stumble, Martinez corrected. She was actively investigating. The notebook showed she had connected Mark Whitley's assaults to his father's pattern of case manipulation. She was building a comprehensive case against both of them. At 17, Tyler marveled. She was incredibly brave. Catherine smiled sadly. She wanted to be a journalist. Like Jennifer. Outside, the forensic teams were finally packing up their equipment. The physical investigation was concluding, but the legal proceedings were just beginning. State police are taking over the sheriff's department temporarily, Martinez informed them. Complete audit of all cases Taylor and Whitley handled over the past 30 years. Mike watched the activity from the window, feeling a chapter closing. What happens to this place now? To the farm? It's still your home, Catherine said gently. Amber would want you to keep it, to make something good grow here. Mike nodded, finding unexpected comfort in her words. The land had held its secrets long enough. Now it could begin to heal, just like the community around it. 6 months passed in a whirlwind of legal proceedings, media coverage, and gradual healing. Winter had given way to spring, and the north field where Amber had been found now bloomed with wildflowers planted by Catherine and local volunteers as a living memorial. Mike adjusted his tie, uncomfortable in the formal suit he rarely wore. Today marked the beginning of the preliminary hearing against Judge Marcus Whitley Sr., his son Mark, and 3 others implicated in the cover-up, including 2 former deputies who had helped conceal evidence. Sheriff Taylor, having accepted a plea deal in exchange for his comprehensive testimony, would be the prosecution's key witness. "Ready?" Tyler asked, appearing in the doorway of his childhood bedroom. He had taken a semester leave from university to support his father through the legal process and help manage the increased attention on their farm. "As ready as I'll ever be," Mike replied. The courthouse in the county seat was surrounded by media when they arrived. Jennifer Chen, now working on a book about the case, met them at a side entrance. "Full house in there," she warned. "National, press, local spectators, even a documentary crew." "Any sign of the Whitleys?" Tyler asked. "Both arrived an hour ago. Senior looks like he's aged 20 years since his arrest. Junior still has that arrogant smirk, though." Inside the courtroom, Mike was surprised to see how many Oak Ridge County residents had come to witness the proceedings. Elderly farmers who had sat silently at the diner counter now nodded respectfully as he passed. Mabel herself sat in the front row, her expression resolute. The Sullivan family occupied seats directly behind the prosecution table. Catherine had been joined by relatives from across the country, all wearing small butterfly pins, a symbol Amber had loved. As Mike took his designated seat, he locked eyes briefly with Marcus Whitley Sr. The former judge, now stripped of his title pending trial, quickly looked away, but his son Mark stared defiantly, as though still believing himself untouchable. Robert Martinez slipped into the seat beside Mike. "Never thought I'd see this day," he murmured. "The Whitleys actually facing justice." The proceedings began with formal charges being read. Obstruction of justice, tampering with evidence, conspiracy after the fact to conceal a homicide, intimidation of witnesses, abuse of official capacity, and for Mark Whitley, involuntary manslaughter in Amber Sullivan's death. The prosecution outlined their case methodically, presenting the timeline of Amber's disappearance, the subsequent cover-up, and the systematic intimidation of witnesses over 3 decades. When Sheriff Taylor was called to testify, a hush fell over the courtroom. The man who had once been Mike's childhood friend now looked diminished, his shoulders slumped with the weight of his actions. "Sheriff Taylor," the prosecutor began, "please tell the court about the events of November 14th, 1997. Taylor recounted the night of Amber's death with painful clarity, describing how Mark Whitley had called his father in panic after Amber fell during their confrontation, how Prosecutor Whitley had arrived at the scene and immediately taken control, deciding to make the death look like a disappearance rather than risk his son's future. He said no one would believe it was an accident, Taylor testified, not with the allegations Amber was gathering against Mark. He said his family's reputation and his son's life shouldn't be destroyed over one unfortunate incident. Mike listened as Taylor described how they had buried Amber near the old well on Harold Benson's property, then systematically removed or altered evidence, intimidated potential witnesses, and maintained the fiction that Amber had run away. During a recess, Mike stepped outside for air, finding himself unexpectedly alone in a courthouse corridor. A moment later, Marcus Whitley Sr. appeared, accompanied by his attorney who stepped briefly away to take a call. The two men regarded each other in loaded silence. "You could have left it alone," Whitley finally said, his voice barely above a whisper. "That box had been buried for 30 years. Should have stayed that way." "Like Amber?" Mike countered. Whitley flinched slightly. "It was an accident. My son never meant to kill her. But you meant to cover it up, to threaten Harold Benson, to force Martinez out, to bury evidence of other crimes too." Whitley's attorney returned before he could respond, guiding his client back toward the courtroom with a warning glance at Mike. Inside, as testimony resumed, Mike found himself studying the faces in the gallery. People who had known about or suspected the truth for years, but remained silent out of fear or deference to the Whitley family's power. Catherine caught his eye from across the aisle and gave a small, grateful nod. In that moment, Mike understood that regardless of the legal outcome, the truth itself was a form of justice long denied to Amber and her family. 1 year to the day after Mike's shovel struck metal in the North Field, the Reynolds farm hosted a gathering unlike any in its history. The preliminary hearings had concluded with all defendants bound over for trial, and Mark Whitley had unexpectedly pleaded guilty to involuntary manslaughter, perhaps hoping for leniency that his father, maintaining his innocence, might not receive. Today, however, was not about the legal proceedings. It was about Amber Sullivan and the legacy of a 17-year-old girl whose courage had finally exposed decades of corruption. Catherine Baker had approached Mike with the idea, a memorial garden and scholarship announcement on the anniversary of the discovery. Mike had readily agreed, offering the spot where the wildflowers now bloomed as the perfect location. "It transforms something tragic into something hopeful," Catherine had explained. Now, as Mike watched people gathering around the memorial stone, he marveled at how much had changed in a year. The garden formed a perfect circle with native perennials, selected to ensure something would always be in bloom. At its center stood a simple granite marker engraved with Amber's name, her dates, and the words, "Truth cannot remain buried forever." Jennifer Chen moved through the crowd, no longer documenting as a journalist but attending as a friend. Her series on the case had won national awards, and the subsequent investigations into other cases manipulated by the Whitleys had exposed a network of corruption spanning 3 decades. "Quite a turnout," Martinez commented, joining Mike by the refreshment table. The former deputy had found an unexpected second chapter to his career, now consulting with the State Bureau of Investigation on cold cases. "Half the county is here," Mike agreed. "The other half is still in denial that their respected judge was corrupt," Martinez noted wryly. Tyler approached with a young woman Mike recognized as the university representative coordinating the newly established scholarship. "Dad, Ms. Patel needs to confirm a few details before the announcement." "Of course." Mike excused himself to go over the scholarship parameters once more. The Amber Sullivan Memorial Scholarship would provide full tuition to a graduating senior from Oak Ridge High pursuing journalism or criminal justice, with preference given to students demonstrating commitment to truth and accountability. As the formal program began, Catherine took the podium first, thanking everyone who had helped bring her sister justice. Amber was just 17 when she recognized wrongdoing and decided to gather evidence, even knowing the risks, she told the assembled crowd. She could have looked away. She could have stayed silent. Instead, she documented the truth, created backup evidence, and made sure that someday someone would find it. She gestured to Mike. That someone was Mike Reynolds, who found a metal box and could have simply discarded it or ignored its contents. Instead, he pursued the truth despite threats to himself and his son. Mike felt uncomfortable with the praise, but Catherine continued. Today we honor Amber's memory not just by remembering her, but by creating opportunities for others to follow in her footsteps, pursuing truth and justice. Tyler joined her at the podium to announce the scholarship details. His own experiences over the past year having shifted his academic focus toward law with a concentration in advocacy for cold case investigations. As the university representative formally accepted the endowment, Mike noticed Sheriff Taylor's replacement, a reform-minded woman brought in from outside the county, standing respectfully at the edge of the gathering. After the ceremony, as guests mingled and shared refreshments, the Sullivan family presented Mike with a framed certificate. The County Historical Society wanted you to have this, Catherine explained. They've officially renamed the creek that runs through your property as Amber's Creek. It's a small thing, but it's perfect, Mike assured her, genuinely touched by the gesture. The small waterway meandered through the western edge of his farm, including past the spot where Amber had been found. As the afternoon waned, most guests departed, leaving just the core group who had been involved from the beginning. Jennifer, Martinez, Catherine, Tyler, and Mike gathered at the memorial stone, sharing quiet reflections. What will you do with the farm now? Jennifer asked. I imagine it holds complicated memories. Mike gazed across the fields, golden in the late afternoon light. This land was never the villain in the story, just a witness. Now it can be part of the healing. The North Field especially, Tyler added. We've decided to keep it as a permanent memorial space. No farming, no development, just wildflowers and peace. Martinez nodded approvingly. Amber would have liked that. As sunset approached, casting long shadows across the memorial garden, Catherine placed a final bouquet against the stone marker. Thank you all, she said simply, for bringing my sister home, for making sure she wasn't forgotten. One by one, they departed until only Mike remained, watching the day's last light illuminate the wildflowers swaying gently in the evening breeze. So much had changed in a year. Lives upended, secrets exposed, powerful men brought to justice. Yet as he walked back toward the farmhouse that had been his family's home for generations, Mike felt a sense of rightness settling over the land. The truth had finally been unearthed, and with it came the possibility of genuine healing, both for the Sullivan family and for a community long living under the shadow of corruption. The metal box that had started it all now sat on his mantel, empty of its secrets but full of meaning, a reminder that sometimes justice arrives not in dramatic moments, but in the simple act of a shovel striking metal in an ordinary field on an ordinary autumn day. Some things, Mike reflected, were meant to be found no matter how deeply they were buried. And some truths, once unearthed, could never be reburied again.